I think we can do a whole episode about the intermission scene because I think when I saw it for the first time, that was the newest thing I had seen in a Hindi movie, and like it made sense. And like obviously there's specifics about the scene that we will talk about more. But I think the most noticeable and like the easiest thing to uh, perceive from that is that the title of the movie and the character comes after that, and that is the exact intermission point, and that's where you leave the first half and then you come back and you kind of look at the aftermath of all that. So I thought that was a very obviously it was a very cool and noticeable thing. Like definitely the audience would be like, wow, like I have not like there's something he's trying to say with this. But I also thought that like the like subtextually there is like it's kind of easy. Like it would not require a film studies major to kind of tell like to have any interpretation of what he's trying to do. So I can start with like my simple interpretation. I think at least with respect to the title coming after the scene. Just to describe it, do you want to just describe it before I go into it, or?
Yeah, so we're talking about the scene, and we're talking about the scene where in the plot, um, I think Kabir has just injected some drug or something. This is before his brother's wedding, and this is after his unsuccessful attempt at uh, convincing Preeti's parents. Um, so I think he puts morphine or something into his body, and it's a scene where he's laying on the bed, and he starts peeing. And while he's peeing, there's like shadi or wedding music playing in the background, and it's very loud. And the camera is it's basically circling around his. Uh,
It basically does like a 180 vertical flip, like सीधा के बजाय पूरा उल्टा हो जाता है
yeah,
vertically speaking. हाँ.
yeah, and it's like just sort of. I think it's zooming into him
हाँ.
peeing his pants, and then after this, the this it cuts to Kabir Singh, and that's basically the intermission in India.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I think that's a great description. And for me, it was like I think for me the when I saw the name appear at that point, I was like the director is aware that we are watching a movie that kind of creates a monument out of a character. And so a character in a movie is not just like a person, a regular person who you are kind of talking to. Like a character in a movie is always like this, there is an extra thing to it. And I think that is something that is special to generally Telugu movies and even Tamil, like probably South movies in general, is like the hero and like yeah, it has gone from the character to the hero now. But in general, the idea is that you look at the character as like this otherworldly figure who's like almost like a god. And so I think even though the story is so grounded in like kind of like a realist kind of story where this is a doctor and everything is like relatable in terms of college, it's still like the director views the character as like a figure, and he's aware that the audience is also going to view this character as a figure. They're not going to just look at him as a doctor who is self-destructive. They're going to look at him as someone who there is no way this character could be real. And so I think he's looking at the myth of it, and he I think just demonstrates um his awareness of that at that point by saying that okay, this is where um essentially you have seen everything that created the myth of Kabir Singh or Arjun Reddy, that you are that whose story you are watching right now. And I think in the Hindi one, my theory would be more effective because in the Hindi one is where people already had like a lot of exposure to the story through the songs or the trailer, which was all these were hits. Like the trailer was a hit, all these music videos were a hit even before the movie came out. And so I think that's where it's most effective because everyone already had an expectation when they watched the Hindi movie that this is about some kind of like a mythological, self-destructive character. And so when you see the title, you're like, oh, so he was get so the first half was getting to this point, and now we're going to see and even though we've not seen any of the alcoholism till now, और I mean you've seen glimpses, but second half में जब वो पूरा actually करेगा ये सब alcoholism और बकचोदी करेगा वो, तब you kind of know that what led to this. So I think it's like this marker that he gives the audience, like of giving the title that this is what created Kabir Singh, the myth that you were either expecting because you were exposed to the trailer, etc., or just like the myth that you're going to see in the second half. So I thought it was very cool.
Was the scene different from Arjun Reddy?
No, it was same. I mean, the music was different, but the aspect that I commented on, that the name of the movie and the character comes, that is the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, the music is a bit different.
If you have to summarize what you said, would it be that um it's an interesting way to set up the second half of the movie, um and it's a subversion of the showing the character as a heroic thing? Were those the two main points, or did I not understand
It's
correctly?
not the subversion of that. I'm saying it is the subversion is that the movie looks like it might look, it's treated as if it's like a realist kind of movie जिसमें मतलब ऐसे scenes ही है ना, क्योंकि action वैसा नहीं है ना कि तुम ऐसे बंदूक like ऐसे slow mo action scenes वो सब कुछ नहीं है, but still it is actually a heroic kind of movie, or heroic, or kind of, I mean, heroic might say just it's a positive character, like he could be something else as well. But जब वो ऐसे title दिखाता है, I think that
Yeah.
is a way of subverting the realist kind of movies. Like it's like
How
saying,
so?
because that is when you see the myth kind of come to life, because you can kind of tell that okay, ये character ऐसे कोई normal doctor types नहीं है, ये थोड़ा like this is a movie, a cinematic kind of depiction. I think that makes you aware of that. Whereas थोड़े लोग देखते देखते सोच सकते हैं कि ओ क्योंकि सीन्स में डायलॉग्स इतने रियल लाइफ की तरह हैं, ये कैरेक्टर भी हमारे में से एक की तरह ही है, बट आई फील लाइक
So
जब
wait,
तुम,
you don't think the morphine overdose is realistic?
या नो लाइक अ डॉक्टर मिक्सिंग अल्कोहल एंड मॉर्फिन, वो भी क्योंकि वो खुद डिप्रेस्ड है, इज लाइक आई मीन आई थिंक इट माइट हैव
Really?
हैपेंड इन लाइफ, बट आई एम
Like
जस्ट सेइंग.
people, like people do commit suicide in real life. So anything less than that would not seem unrealistic to me. Like if he's a doctor, I'm not saying all doctors are getting high on morphine. And even in the movie, they show that the doctors are like, what the fuck? And the other doctors are not doing this. So in the movie also, it is like he's an exceptional thing. But it did not seem non-realistic to me.
Okay, so when I mean the opposite of realism, I don't mean that like it's something that only that can only happen in fiction. By that, I basically mean that like generally there'll be like two main brackets you can divide films into. One is realism in that it is just trying to depict like a reality that is common to us and that's just relatable to us, like say Bicycle Thieves. And then
Hmm.
the other one is called formalism, where a movie is like being made to construct like not just a reality, it's like to construct a kind of world that is like understandable to us, but it is
Hmm.
not necessarily like what we relate with. And so formalism would include any kinds of movies which has any slow-mo, because slow-mo is not how we experience the world, for
Hmm.
example.
Hmm. Hmm.
um or even Jaws, where there's the shot of like, I think I don't know what the shot is called, but like the background seems like it's coming to you while the camera is going towards, like there is some extra shots, those are called
Hmm. Hmm.
formalism. And so whenever you employ some tools to kind of change the way reality is perceived, that is formalism. So I'm saying that this movie might feel like realism because of dialogue and because of its setting in a contemporary मेडिकल कॉलेज, सो इट माइट लुक लाइक ओके ये तो एक्चुअली असलियत दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा है
Yeah.
क्योंकि राइटिंग वाइटिंग दिखाई है, बट फिर जब तू ऐसी चीजें देखता है, आई थिंक दैट इज व्हेन द डायरेक्टर इज सीमेंटिंग द फैक्ट कि ये एक्चुअली फॉर्मलिस्ट काइंड ऑफ मूवी है जहां पे हम कंस्ट्रक्ट कर रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है कि ऐसे लोग हमारे आसपास घूमते रहते हैं, लाइक ये एक एक्स्ट्रा एक
Hmm.
मिथोलॉजिकल कैरेक्टर है जो मतलब ये कुछ ज्यादा ही एक्सेप्शनल है. And I think this is the reason it's so important, even though it might sound like a small detail, is because when people criticize this movie in the sense that this is making like social commentary that is bad because men might think they're entitled to kind of control their relationship and things like that, or like when people see the toxic implications of the movie as like something super important, they have to understand that the director is fully aware that he has kind of showed the audience that this movie is like a whole like a it's like a larger than life kind of depiction that is not supposed to just mimic reality. Like if it was a movie which was just showing daily life and फिर कबीर सिंह ऐसा था जो गुस्सा होता है मारता रहता है लड़कियों को ऐसे, then it would be like you are trying to depict reality, and in that depiction of reality you are showing bad toxic things, right? So I think this kind of scene shows the audience that this is not a depiction of reality, this is like a
Hmm.
hyper extension of reality. But that's what I thought of the title. And since we've spent too much of time just talking about title, maybe you can talk about like the flip, like why is the flip happening? And it happens in both the
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, you mean the camera movement?
Yeah, like it zooms in, then it rotates 180 degrees, and then it zooms in more as he's speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I okay, I think one of the few things the music and the movement does is that it makes us realize that it creates a little bit of distance between Kabir Singh and us. So in most scenes, we might think that we are in Kabir Singh's shoes or we are in some other person's shoes because it's just a normal camera thing. With this, the audience, with the music, the director is kind of pushing the audience to laugh, not laugh, but observe Kabir Singh almost as a comical thing. कि
Mm-hmm.
भाई just look at like this guy's pissing his pants, and then
Mm-hmm.
पीछे music भी इतना like वो ढोल वगैरह है.
Mm-hmm.
um it's almost a bit like, like if you would show Mr. Bean do something, um and you would kind of laugh at him, or I don't think they're making people laugh at Kabir Singh, but just the entire movement and everything is really making people look at Kabir Singh as an object rather
Mm-hmm.
than kind of um like that's the first time in which he's like shooting him in a different way. But I
Yeah.
think the interesting thing about uh, that scene, and I remember seeing it in the cinema and being quite surprised. I
Yeah.
think the interesting thing in that scene is that, and I was thinking about this yesterday. Actually, I was thinking about this today. If you look at most media
Mm-hmm.
of, I don't know, successful people, um, it's very bland. So if you look at most people, if let's say someone records a video of you and me describing a morning routine, it's not perfect in the sense that we don't like get up, work out, meditate, and like everyone when they wake up, they basically do one or two things that's kind of gross.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like obviously no one will talk about that because it's common, but no
Mm-hmm.
one has like these perfect routines. But if you watch like any interviews of successful people, this, that, like very pristine, with maybe the one exception of Louis C.K., who would just say whatever he actually does, and it'll usually be kind of disgusting. Like he'll say, I woke up and I ate like 50 scoops of ice cream or something. But
Mm-hmm.
if you look at like an interview of, I don't know, a famous person,
Sam
they'll never
Altman.
say that. He'll never say, I woke up and I like watched porn, right? Even though he
Mm-hmm.
could have, and Louis C.K. would have.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this disconnect in media. With this, and I don't know how I'm going to tie it back to this scene, but one interesting thing with this scene is that, I mean, this guy's very self-destructive,
Yeah.
and rather than kind of showing it in this still heroic way, कि ये
Mm-hmm.
हमारा हीरो है, ये पीट रहा है,
Mm-hmm.
बहुत ही अच्छा है, like everything prior to this is somewhat heroic. This
Mm-hmm.
one scene, in this one scene, I don't want to say it's anti-heroic, but it's kind of showing something as it is. It's like this guy's basically a wreck.
Yeah.
He's like morphine चढ़ा दी है, इसने कुछ हो नहीं रहा है. It's showing it in a very objective way, and there's something very honest
Yeah.
about the director showing the scene that at the very least makes me think that इसके mind में, if there is a thing that happened with Kabir Singh, he will not, I can kind of trust this director, that this director will not hide it to make it look pristine.
Mm-hmm.
So, as an example, if someone like Sam Altman goes on air and they ask him what's your morning routine, and he's like, I watch porn and eat Cheetos, they'll cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
They'll cut him off. They won't keep it. But at least with this scene, I can now trust the director that if Kabir Singh, as a independent character, let's say does something A, B that is bad, but he would have done it,
Mm-hmm.
this guy won't censor it. I can trust my director that he
Mm-hmm.
won't censor something to be sensitive to me as an audience. If it
Mm-hmm.
actually happened in the story or with the character, which is a very, very big thing. I cannot trust most directors with that. Even if you do theater,
Yeah.
often in theater they'll give someone directions and the guy will, अपने लय में चले जाएगा. And फिर director आएगा भाई थोड़ा, लोग देख रहे हैं, थोड़ा कम कर दे. With this guy, I can trust him that uh, I don't want to say sensitive or dissensitive to the audience. He's not treating the audience like a child.
Like a chat. Yeah.
Like he will ये दिखा देगा जो हो रहा है. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe one thing I would like you to comment on is like the depiction of drugs and like self-harming drugs in other movies. Like a few movies that come to my mind. Have you seen London Dreams?
Yeah.
If you think of London Dreams and if you think of Urta Punjab, those are maybe the two movies that suddenly came to my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and uske comparison mein kaisa hai? Because it's not comedic in those two. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's comedic here, but the music is not like serious and grim. It's band
Yeah.
baja baj raha hai. So what do you think of that? The music choice and it compared to other depictions
Yeah.
of drugs in those two movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so first to make my comment on the flip and him basically peeing. Yeah, I think both of them are pretty intricately linked. Like the fact that he just lets go and he's just that he's just peeing and the camera flipping 180 degrees, I think are very closely related. Because how I look at it is the first half of the movie, he's super in control. And like everything that has happened till now, he has basically ran the shit, right? Like he quoted the girl completely, she, and that's obviously why a lot of people even find problems ki oh matlab उसने अपना position use किया whatever, but उसका हाथ ज्यादा था उनके relationship के creation में वो सब first, right after this moment, he's going to enter this phase of just self-destruction, alcohol and drug abuse. And even when they get together, it's not even like it's up to him. Like in the Telugu one, there's a bit of कि उसके हाथ में ज्यादा है क्योंकि वो यूरोप जाता है फिर यूरोप से वापस डिसाइड करके आता है कि मैं एक बार वापस पूछूंगा. हिंदी वाले में तो ऐसा लगता है कि वो बस उसको दिख गई पार्क में वो बस गया और पूछ दिया उसने. तो तो इसलिए इन जनरल सेकंड हाफ ऐसा लगता है कि उसमें उसके पास कोई कंट्रोल ही नहीं है स्टोरी, मतलब पूरा उसने बस लेट गो कर दिया. तो आई रियली थिंक कि इस ये पॉइंट है जहां कबीर सिंह बेसिकली का पूरा कंट्रोल निकल गया. एंड फ्लिप का मेरे हिसाब से मतलब यह है कि बेसिकली इसकी दुनिया एकदम उल्टी हो गई है इसके लिए, क्योंकि इसके हिसाब से पूरी दुनिया एक तरीके से चल रही थी कि भाई प्यार व्यार हो गया है, ये हो गया वो हो गया, अब जिंदगी सेट है ये वो. बट राइट बिफोर दिस इसलिए कि इसकी बंदी के पेरेंट्स एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहे, और इसकी बंदी भी मतलब उसकी जितनी पागल नहीं है कि फैमिली छोड़ देते हैं भाग के निकलते हैं, वो ऐसी नहीं है, उसको मनाना है उन्हें. तो उसके दिमाग में पूरा वो है कि ये क्या चल रहा है, इसीलिए वो कैमरा उल्टा हो रहा है. एंड द रीजन वो पी कर रहा है इज बिकॉज बेसिकली वो अब कंट्रोल ही नहीं वो पूरा अपने काइंड ऑफ न्यूड हो चुका है. लाइक इट्स जस्ट लाइक he has just lost every control and sense of the kind of universe, because whatever is supposed to make sense to him just is not manifesting according to how he um, makes sense of the world. And I do agree with you that I really appreciate that the director is trying to be very candid and honest about the character. Like it is, the movie is really serving Kabir and not anyone else. And I think the reason this movie is so good is because it uses a formalist style, but it stays true to a character. Oftentimes movies which are really good about showing character revelation. Oftentimes they will be of the realist style, which are generally like kind of trying to show real life moments and stuff, and they tend to be boring. But these move, and I think that's the beauty of generally Bollywood. इसकी Bollywood में ये है कि most movies formal style की होती हैं, and अगर एक Bollywood movie में character revelation या character arc होता है, तो it's just like mind blowing. It's so such a visual treat to watch such a film and also get to really feel for a person. And now, in terms of comparing with depictions of drug abuse in other movies, I think you're very right that the music choice is like a big difference between how they're treating versus say how an Urta Punjab is treating. Although there are some similarities as well. So I think the main difference is ki this guy is just going down and funny kind of music is playing. In Urta Punjab, when characters are going down in the sense कि drugs से basically उनकी जिंदगी खराब हो रही है, उसमें सैड म्यूजिक ही चलता है. लाइक जैसे दिलजीत का जो भाई है वो नशे करता है, एकदम ऑफ हो जाता है उसका सीन. तो हाँ, उस टाइम पे तुम्हें लगता है कि ओ ये मूवी वो सबवर्ट कर रही है बाय शोइंग कि जब ऐसा कैरेक्टर को की जिंदगी खराब हो रही है, वी डोंट हैव टू जस्ट गेट डिप्रेस्ड फॉर हिम कि भाई ये तो ऑफ सीन है ये सब. You can kind of, as you said, be a voyeur and just see how his life is just kind of falling down. Whereas in Urda Punjab, but Urda Punjab's goal is to show you about the problem, drug problem in Punjab. So you're supposed to feel super bad about anything that has to do with the drug leading to character going down. But at the same time, I think Urda Punjab did introduce the idea of you can take a sad thing and have some funny songs or funny characters. Like Tommy is hilarious, even though he represents such he represents a problematic kind of artist in Punjab. So I think it introduced the concept that you can have funny and comedy in like a such a character type of movie. And then this guy is taking it forward, but in only in one single scene. Um, but I mean, he does go in the conventional route also. Like in the second half, जब वो नशे वशे कर रहा होता है, तब वो बेख्याली चल रहा होता है क्योंकि तब वो दुखी ही होता है. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि ये मूवी सडनली ड्रग के डिपिक्शन को फ्लिप कर देती है, बट इस सीन में ऐसा लगता है कि इसके डाउनफॉल का हम काइंड ऑफ मजाक बना रहे ताकि हम डिप्रेस ना हो पर हम देख पाए एंड सो दैट वी कैन एक्चुअली अब्सॉर्ब द कैरेक्टर एटसेट्रा. या
I find that very, very interesting. What can you repeat the last sentence you said?
द लास्ट सेंटेंस.
कि हम देख पाए but हम डिप्रेस ना हो but
Yeah, I think if you get too emotionally invested in a character's downfall, then you are not able to look from afar and gaze at the character and be like, what happened to him? And I think somewhat you get to learn more from the story if you can actually stand afar and just see what's happening.
yeah.
And that's what's happening in this story. Whereas if the music that was playing was sad and you just feel कि भाई ये इतना मेरे को बहुत दुख हो रहा है कि ये बंदे की जिंदगी खराब हो गई, then you're not able to kind of track what the flow is in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think he might be trying to do that. So that and I think it goes back to my idea of him being a formal kind of filmmaker. Like he
Yeah.
really values the distance between the viewer and the movie. Like he's not trying to just take you inside or something like that. I think it's very cool.
Dude, he's a really good director.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything you want to talk about the scene? I think we can end this episode.
Let me think. Um, yeah, I will say one thing, and this is not a big point, but I mean, it's interesting, or I don't know if interesting is the right word. It's worth noting that, interval aata hai beech mein, and there are many ways to use an interval as a director. You can use it in an unnatural way or a natural way. Like, or you can either think कि okay, जब ये Netflix या डीवीडी पे आएगी तो तब तो नहीं होगा इंटरवल, तो मैं ऐसे बनाता हूँ, ऐसे बीच में बस काट देता हूँ कोई सीन एंड अब्रप्टली बंद हो जाएगा इन द सिनेमा. कई मूवी में ऐसा हुआ है. लाइक आई डोंट रिमेंबर व्हिच वन, बट देयर वर मूवीज आई रिमेंबर वेयर व्हेन आई वॉच्ड उनका डीवीडी या नेटफ्लिक्स पे आफ्टर वॉचिंग इट इन द सिनेमा, इंटरवल को कोई पोजीशन ही नहीं है बिकॉज इंटरवल ब्रेक इज देयर फॉर फूड बेसिकली, टू सेल फूड्स. बट वो नहीं है तो वो नहीं दिखता है, वो सीमलेस हो जाता है. एंड आई लाइक द फैक्ट दैट even if you watch this on DVD, you will see the interval and he's worked around it. He's used it in a certain way. He's used it as a bookend, and that's good, but nothing more to that point.
Yeah, but I do. It's a good point, especially because इसमें intermission word नहीं आता. So you're not supposed to think it's an intermission, but I think like it completely makes sense in terms of story की intermission. So yeah, he's
Mhm.
doing well with the format of how Indian movies are made. Okay.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
that's the end of this episode.
Yep. See you.
Cool. Bye.